Omega, Episode 4, Omega in the Making. The area around them had plenty of holes and pits, looking almost like white cheese, perfect for some creature to hide. In the north, a large chasm separated them from an old, dilapidated city, not far in the distance. As the sun set, it was Oscar who told the story, a Phoenix classic. It wouldn't be bad if you haven't already told me about it 1,000 times before, Sophia teased. Well, it was the Omega's first time hearing it. Oscar looked around the fire. Actually, where is Abraham? He was just sitting with us earlier. He just wanted some time to himself. Is he still upset about everything? Wouldn't you if you were the Omega? He said, but the first fire weaver fighting off a few bandits and saving a small village, after he was given power by the weave itself. Now, how's that for a classic story, Sophia? Oscar bantered. Onyx looked into the darkness, thinking he heard something, the sound of someone walking around them. It didn't take long for the rest of them to notice. I'll go check. It's probably just Abraham, Oscar said, walking into the night. But Abraham was far, far away from camp, sitting on the ledge of the deep chasm, looking into the starry sky at the blinking lights of a hovering ship over a worn-torn city. Hey, Master, I know you can hear me, but I just need to talk. You see, I've found some interesting people down here. They're all great. Oscar's a little pretentious, but that's not what I want to talk to you about. You see, it's my metal. Everyone else seems to be changing, like Oscar's has gained a curve, Onyx is turning into a hammer, and Sophia's, I think, is like a rapier. But those are actual weapons. Mine is still a bar of metal, and it likes to fight back. It doesn't listen to my commands. It's put a lot of people in danger. I don't know if it's me or the metal. I don't know if it's defective or if I am. Suddenly, though, a scream was heard from camp, and the sound of fighting was now reaching Abraham's ears. Running and jumping over pits and holes, the scene he saw terrified him. Onyx on his knees, weakened, his weapon across the camp. Sophia was unconscious next to hers, and Oscar had a blade held to his throat by Ishin. Around him, 12 others held their weapons ready. So, we finally meet face to face, Ishin said confidently. I'm guessing it was you who attacked me then and left me for dead? Abraham accused. Indeed it was, Ishin answered. Look, we don't have to do this, you know. We can go our separate ways. No. I still have to make sure you never get off this planet, ESF dog, Ishin responded. Abraham knew there was no talking this out, pulling out his metal, ready to defend himself. This time, I won't fail at killing you. Now back up, my friends, and take these 3. I'll take care of this one. Ishin pushed Oscar into the crowd, and they grabbed him like tendrils, pulling him away. Oscar looked at Abraham as if he had just signed his life away. Ishin readied his weapons, now taking the form of talon-like daggers. He started to breathe heavier and faster, and within a few moments he let out a scream of fire, evaporating all the snow and ice around them, leaving only dirt and rock. Rushing Abraham with a fury of ignited blows, Abraham barely kept up. Being on the defensive slowly, he was pushed back, over holes and pits, almost falling in a few. Ishin's fire, though, his energy started to fade. Abraham saw this as his chance to strike, thrusting his weapon at Ishin with all his might. The only problem was there was a chasm behind him, and he wasn't watching Ishin's other hand. A sensation of metal pierced his side. Before Abraham knew it, he was falling, and fast. The last thing he saw was Ishin standing victoriously over the chasm, before he faded from consciousness. His body was consumed by water, washing him onto the icy bank. He woke up to the sun rising, unable to determine how long he had been out. Looking around, Abraham realized that the chasm walls were made of ice. Realizing this, he thought he might be able to use his weave to create an elevator of ice. Trying to move his body, the wound on his side had started to bleed through his wet blue robes. Standing up, Abraham trying to use his metal, enacting his will upon it, but to no avail. Slumping to the ground, all motivation and hope had dissipated, leaving him a shell. Really? After all you've been through? All our failures, you're just going to stop now? How pathetic, a voice shouted. Abraham looked around to see no one. I'm in your hand, idiot. Looking down, his metal was glowing blue. You're talking? How? Abraham wondered. Is that the most surprising thing? Not the fact that there are snakes the size of buildings, or the fact that you've survived so long on pure luck? Now then, dry your clothes and get me out of this stupid chasm. I can't use my weave to scale the wall, and I can't use it to dry myself either. The sword started to glow brighter, and instantly Abraham's clothes were dry. Now, that is the only thing I'm helping you with. What are you? Isn't it obvious? I'm your metal. Isn't that what you call me? Fairly disrespectful. I at least deserve the name weapon. You're alive? How do you think we change shape? We take our powers, boring personalities, and decide how we change. Abraham bowed his head down. And what's wrong, Omega? It's my friends. I failed them this time, I failed them earlier, and now they're probably dead. Well, aren't you pessimistic? How do you know they're dead? It was Ishin's goal to kill Oscar. That was only one of them. Well, what do you think he'll do with the rest? Well, you have to have a little bit of hope, even if it's blind. Use it to push yourself. Abraham stood up. Then how am I going to get out of here? Look in front of you, genius. Abraham lifted his head to see a tunnel. It should take us directly to the outskirts of a city. How do you know that? Because I could feel more of, myself there? More metal? Yes. Now are we going to stand here, or are we going to get out of here? Abraham descended into the cold tunnel, his metal a guiding light in the dark. He checked his wound. It still hadn't healed, unlike the many cuts and bruises of before. Abraham, though, thought about his journey. And almost every other step, it felt as if someone else had saved him. Oscar, Sophia, and even Onyx a little bit. You know I can hear what you're thinking. Then you know how useless I am. First, quit sulking, you big baby. And second, haven't you saved them a few times? Yeah, but almost every time you wouldn't work. And I almost lost them. Have you ever wondered why I don't work? It's because one of us is broken. No, you fool. It's because you force your entire will upon me. Sometimes I can't even breathe. You see, we both have our wants and needs. When only your voice sings, we only have half a chorus. But if we both are working together, a beautiful dance of weave and blade can begin. So, I have to listen to you as much as you have to listen to me? Yes, that's exactly it. Then something else crossed Abraham's mind. Do other pieces of metal also talk? Indeed, but, their voices are muffled. Why is that? Well, because unlike you, people can only tap into a fraction of the weave. Suddenly, though, the tunnel started to violently shake, followed by a roar that echoed throughout the halls. I know that roar. Abraham's heart started to beat out of his chest. It's a serpent! I think it's coming this way. Abraham started to back up, ready to run in fear. Don't you dare retreat! I can't fight the thing. Yes, you can. Remember what I said. Not to mention you're the Omega, someone who could easily rip apart planets. I'll try then. Abraham raised his metal, unable to focus. Close your eyes, Abraham, and listen to your heart. He followed his metal's commands. The tunnel shook harder and harder, almost knocking him to the ground. You could see the serpent's head rushing towards them, its roar deafening. I'm ready. Are you sure? Yes. The Titan was only a few seconds away from consuming them. Together they moved the blade, raising it like a violent wave. In Abraham's head an argument ensued. One was wanting to fight defensively and create a wall of ice. The other wanted a jet of water to cut the Titan in half. Then Abraham realized they could do both. Ice surrounded the metal, both of their wills intertwined with a split-second decision. They used the ice like a blade. The serpent was halted by it first. Then its strength alone was enough to cut the humongous Titan in half, its corpse stopping directly in front of them. Now, that's how a legendary weaver should be, in harmony with their blade. We did it. We actually did it. Take a second to celebrate. And even after using that much power, we cut the thing in half with a sheet of ice. I'm not even tired. That, my friend, is the power of an Omega. Now, let's go save your friends, Abraham. Abraham looked at the wound which had finally healed, as he could feel the weave running through him once again. They finally had escaped the tunnel, where now, sitting in front of them, was an old ruined city. Abraham felt something. Looking down, his weapon had started to dim. Are you okay? Better than ever. The metal's voice fading away. It's getting harder to hear you. That's because we're finally one. The voice died, but its presence was still within Abraham, a reminder of that it will always be there. Suddenly, his weapon started to change shape. First, most of it contorted into a straight and sturdy blade. A hilt started to change. It took the form of a coiled serpent. Its mouth open took the place of a pommel. Suddenly, Abraham felt something in his mind open, stopping him for a moment. He was feeling the weave itself. His senses became vibrant and sensitive. Then he felt it, a connection with three others. Onyx, Oscar, and Sophia? It had to be, and they were not far away. Abraham wondered if his weapon knew this all along. In the end, it didn't matter. All that mattered was saving his friends. And this time, he was ready for Ishan. In a worn-out warehouse with snow covering the roof sat three figures, with a victorious Ishan standing over them, an audience watching and waiting. Ishan, please, let's just take them into custody. There's no reason to kill them, Jia protested. Ishan looked at his hand shaking, thinking of how he watched Abraham's falling face. I know, you're right. I feel sick whatever I did to the Omega. His name's Abraham, Oscar interjected and lifted his head. It doesn't matter anymore now. Oscar, I finally have you. And I'll bring you, finally, to justice. Or should I call you by your real name? Keisha. Also, nice new face mask. It actually almost looks like an entirely different person. I know, right? It actually hides my birthmark. Well, why don't we take that mask off? Ishan slipped his fingers onto Oscar's neck, pressing the invisible buttons to disable the hollow mask, but was stopped by a blizzard that could make even fire weavers shiver. Someone in the audience saw a figure outside the huge open doors. Stepping into the old warehouse was Abraham. Everyone readied their blades. I'll ask you once, Ishan. Let them go, Abraham commanded. With a relieved chuckle, Ishan signaled his men to engage the Omega. Abraham was smarter than to fight 12 people at once. He pointed his weapon at the roof, and like a heavy current, forced the snow and ice to collapse part of the roof, bearing a few of his followers. Abraham then flooded the ground with water, trapping even more as it froze over. Then, launching icy daggers, they cut through the rusty chains of Onyx and Sophia. But Ishan snatched Oscar up at the last second. Taking him up onto the catwalk, his dagger pointed at Oscar's neck. Well, you don't seem to die, Onyx grinned. Go get Oscar. We'll handle the rest, Sophia said, finding her rapier on an unconscious follower. Don't kill any of them, please. With a nod from both, Abraham chased Ishan to the remaining roof. Snow fell upon the arena. Ishan held Oscar ready to end him. The Omega stood, waiting for his moment. How are you alive? Ishan asked. A little help from a friend. Now hand him over, Abraham demanded. Fine. You can have him. Ishin threw Oscar to the ground. Oscar was slipping through Ishin's fingers again. He couldn't do this, not how close he was. Ishin's rage started to bubble over like a cauldron once again, powering up a bolt of fire ready to pierce Oscar's body. A wall of ice, though, stopped the fire, giving Oscar just enough time to escape. Both fighters readied themselves, an Omega fueled by confidence, the other of Prince fueled by fiery anger. A dance of furious flames fought against the calm currents. Sword upon sword, neither fighter gave up an inch. It was a battle of attrition. Ice collided with flames. It was Ishin, though, who gained the advantage, battering and barraging, pushing Abraham to his limit. A voice then entered our Omega's head. "Close your eyes and feel the weave, friend." Abraham listened to it. It was then he saw his chance, positioning and parrying Ishin's every attack, feeling the weave guide his movements. Taking him on the defensive, Abraham, as well as his weapon, pushed on Ishin's fiery daggers. They fell out of his hands, landing in the cold snow. Ishin fell to his knees, thinking the Omega would end him. But to his surprise, he was greeted by an open hand. "We can't keep fighting like this. We're just kids. And I promise, I'll help find out who truly killed your parents," Abraham said. "I already know who killed my parents, and I'm more than a kid." Ishin grabbed one of his daggers, jabbing it at the defenseless Omega. Though it was stopped by a curved blade. Oscar's blade. "That's enough, Ishin," he proclaimed. He knew there was no reason to continue to fight, as Abraham encased his hands in ice. "Well, well, well. It's good to see you're alive and well, Abraham." Oscar gave him a hug. "The others have been subdued. In an hour or two, I think a ship should be landing. Also, nice-looking weapon, by the way." With everyone in custody, and only having a few cuts and bruises, our group of four watched as a transport ship landed, finally allowing them to leave this cold and unforgiving planet behind. They were greeted by an open cargo door, where ESF troopers stood. Their black armor shivered in the white snow. Helmets had a green visor perfect for combat. If this was any other time, they would have looked imposing, but to our survivors, they were knights in shining armor. Standing between them was an old man. Abraham immediately knew who it was. "Leo!" Abraham chirped, hugging him. "It's good to see you, Abe." He looked at the rest of the class, where he saw most of them in icy shackles. "What happened, Abraham?" Abraham told everything that went on. "Well then, the ESF Council won't hear about this." The entire class boarded the ship. It arose, leaving the planet behind and bringing them into orbit. They could see stars from a little window, and in the corner of the glass a large shape started to grow. It was a capital ship, with imposing guns on each side that could rip apart an entire fleet in half. Also, on its gray hull, a name was etched into it: Paladin. The ship, though, it was big enough to fit an entire city population and still have room. Eventually, though, they docked into one of its many hangars. Outside, workers moved to and fro, making sure every transport and fighter were in best possible condition. The class followed Leo through the halls where crewmates stood. Finally, they came to a huge hall where doors lined the sides. Leo whispered something into the ear of a nearby guard. Next, they were placed into their own separate rooms. Abraham sat there looking at his sturdy weapon. "Thank you," he said to his blade. A warmth sensation formed in his chest, like a good friend comforting him. Abraham looked around the room to see a few knickknacks from whoever's room this was. A picture of a mother and her children. Another one was what appeared to be a small teddy bear on someone's desk. Abraham, though, looked over to see the door open with a hiss. Standing there was a man, his hair tied in a bun. You could tell he was just annoyed by how his lips frowned upon his chubby face. A symbol of the ESF pilot division sat on his shirt. The symbol was a spacecraft flying from a green planet, stars lighting the background of it too. "Hey, look, there's some people who want to see you on the bridge, and I want my room back," he informed. Sorry, didn't know this was your room, Abraham said. The pilot did not reply, just pointing toward the hallway. Abraham made his way to the bridge, almost getting lost a few times on his way. Entering the bridge, though, he was greeted by two figures. The first was Leo, and the second was a man with jet black hair holding a tablet. The room had a huge glass window in front that overlooked the entire body of the ship. Terminals and blinking lights, though, lined the walls. In the center sat a huge mess of wires and what appeared to be a seat. So, Abraham, would you mind telling the other one about what you told me about Ishin and what happened? Leo asked. Of course. I was attacked by Ishin on the first night I was there. I barely survived. Then I was attacked by wolves, where I was saved by Oscar. Abraham continued to recount his adventure, from saving Oscar to meeting Sophia, freeing Onyx, and then his final encounter with Ishin. Well, does line up with the stories of the others, Leo confirmed. It does. Well, bring in the others, the young man said, writing something onto his tablet. Within a few moments, the entire class walked in onto the bridge. Ishin and all who were with him, you'll be prosecuted for attacking your peers and the Omega, the man commanded. Wait, all of them? Abraham protested. Of course, they helped Ishin. Now take them aboard my vessel, the man claimed. 4 soldiers, accompanied by the ESF man, escorted Ishin and his followers, looks of fear and pity across their faces, leaving only Oscar, Sophia, Onyx, Leo, and Abraham. Abraham tried to speak out. It was wrong. They more than likely stood with Ishin and the group just to survive the harsh environment. But Leo placed a firm hand on Abraham's shoulder, stopping him from continuing on. Serves them right, Oscar said. There isn't much we can do. The ESF has final say over a lot of operations. But I think I have something that could cheer you up, Abe. Leo smiled. Walking throughout the halls, leaving the others to sit on the bridge, Abraham had something to ask Leo. Who even was that? Oh, you're talking about the young guy? Well, his name is Sam, and from what I've heard, he's one of the best they have to offer. And why was he even on the ship? For situations just like this. Be surprised how many times different groups of young weavers try to kill each other, especially during that test. Also, we've almost made it to the hangar. I can't wait to show what is planned for you. Entering the hangar, it felt entirely different from the ones bustling with people and ships. Instead, this one only contained one vessel. There appeared to be a lone figure working upon the ship, too. Abraham immediately recognized the vessel as none other than the Ola, the Silver Bullet. Well, since you passed the test, you're going into the ship for all your missions. Your own ship, Leo? Are you sure? Well, it's not like I use it too much anymore. And I think she needs someone who will give her the love she needs. Remember, the Ola is fitted with a rotary cannon, but this isn't a battleship, so if you do not have to engage, do not. It's fast enough to escape almost any other vessel. It also has state-of-the-art medical treatment, too. And to finish it off, there's enough bedding for 10 people. But don't worry about all that. Remember who the pilot is. But isn't that your bot? Abraham asked. Like I said, I don't use the ship as much, except for, well, when we would travel, so yes, even the bot is yours, Leo smiled. But there's something I think we need to go and discuss on the bridge more. They left, returning back to the bridge, where Abraham's friend sat. So, what was your present? Oscar asked. An amazing ship, Abraham chirped. Does it have a name? Sophia asked. Yeah, it's named the Ola. With a whistle, Leo grabbed their attention. Now, since you are the only ones who have passed and shown, well, extraordinary feats of power, you may become your own squad leaders and pick your own members. And for the uninformed, please tell us what these squads do, Oscar asked. Oh, yes. They are sent on assignments the ESF and groups of weavers need to be done. They could be as simple as escorting a diplomat or taking down a rebel leader. Now, Who wants to start with creating a squad? Sorry to interrupt, but there's no way that Onyx and I are going to be in different squads, Oscar complained. Well, that's fine. I guess you could be in the same squad. A light then went off in Abraham's head. Well, why don't the four of us make a squad? I like it, Onyx shouted. Sophia nodded in approval. Not a bad idea, but you guys are going to need a name. And I'll have to convince the ESF, too, Leo said. Ooh, how about Rock Smashers? Onyx grinned. No, we're not all stone singers. We need to pick something that encompasses all our weaves. Wouldn't you say? Oscar said. The four of them bickered about names like Lion Squad, Alpha Squad, and so on and so forth, until they all somewhat agreed on the name Omega Squad. Fine. I guess it encompasses the fact that we all have different weaves. It'll be fine, Oscar, Abraham assured. Are you all agreeing to this? With an audible yes from everyone, Leo used one of the many terminals to pull up a holographic projection of the known galaxy. Red dots everywhere on the map. As you can see, well, there are many problems that need to be fixed. They looked upon the map with a bit of wonderment. That's a lot to do, Abraham said. Well, let's hope we enjoy each other's company, Oscar bantered. It took them a moment to figure out what assignment they wanted to do, until they landed on a planet called Baquir, known for its huge library that has held over 2,000 years of knowledge. The murder of an important librarian had happened 2 days ago, and they need a team to look deeper into the case. That's the mission you select? All right, I can't wait for it in a few days. But I think you guys are going to need some rest. I'll go get your quarters set up, Leo exclaimed, running out of the bridge. So, Omega, do you think you're ready? Sophia asked. I think so, Abraham said, looking into the expanse of stars, thinking of what adventures were before them. Hey, I would just like to thank everyone for listening to this, even if it's not the best, or maybe it's not as paced as good, or some of the characters got messed up because of my narrations and such. Just thank you for listening to this. And to all my friends who have been waiting for this little project of mine to not really reach a conclusion, but to get to this point, thank you. And I hope you all enjoyed it.